So we must do two things, two great things together to encompass that enormous new view that lies before us, but to encompass it within the framework of science, to see it within the whole categorical framework of science, and to see that these two are not separate, but that they are wedded. The bigness of the idea, the newness of the idea, the greatness of it is one with the structure of science, the structure of being itself. So now we come to love. Love bringing true fulfillment to manhood, complete fulfillment to true manhood, and the fact that no error can prevent salvation. No error can prevent the development of eternal life, truth, and love. No error can prevent life, truth, and love to be understood and demonstrated as supreme above all. That's what love says. You know that wonderful statement that Mrs. Eddy makes in prose work somewhere, that Jesus was a good carpenter and a good man. It made him a good carpenter and a good man before it could make him the glorified. So that good carpenter, that good man, really good according to one's highest understanding of science, is the Son of Man. But that Son of Man has to go. It has to go. And that's what he knew. He knew that that form had to go and give way to the glory of the Son of God, being the true Son. But being true to the Son of Man leads us to the Son of God. And he had that trueness, that fidelity, that faithfulness of truth. That's what we've heard all through the story, the sevenfold story of Matthew. You hear that fidelity. Then the next thing that is so beautiful is that there came unto him a woman having an alabaster box of very precious ointment, and poured it on his head as he sat at meat. So you have an instance of the true womanhood coming to him, coming to comfort him, to encourage him, to let him know that true womanhood is that which understands what is going on, what your mission is, where you are going. So she anointed his head with this precious ointment. But when his disciples saw it, they were indignant about it. They said, "Well, that's such a waste. That's such a waste. For what purpose would you do that? Take something so precious and anoint Jesus' head?" You hear the contrast, you see. This woman represented really the quality, the consciousness that recognized and esteemed Jesus as the Christ idea, recognized his worth, his value, his preciousness, that there would be nothing too good for him. So it's an illustration really of love recognizing its own idea as truth. Then the story goes on, and you have the many different phenomenon. I'm just going to read them off to you. You see, that you have the Last Supper. You have that Last Supper, the meeting of Jesus with his disciples, the foretelling that he will be betrayed. You have the Gethsemane experience. His disciples seem to let him down. The very closest individuals, those that have been closest to him, let him down. Friends will betray, enemies will slander, until the experience is sufficient to exalt you. You see that we seem to need these experiences that are similar, to have these betrayals, to have the loss of friends. It leaves us alone, absolutely alone with God. And that's what Jesus was. He was alone with God. Even in Gethsemane, where he said, he asked them to pray with him, and they fell asleep. They just didn't get it, you know. They just didn't have a clue as to the enormity of what was taking place. That love was fulfilling love's own idea. They didn't see that. So they fell asleep, and he said, "Could ye not watch with me 1 hour?" Huh? I always think of what Mr. Dorley says about that statement. He says that there are 24 hours in the day, and that 1 hour corresponds to the, well, if there are 24 hours in the day, there are also 24 sections in recapitulation, and that 1 hour corresponds to the answer to the question, what is God? To watch for 1 hour. We come to the truth tone in this love as truth section, where the whole gamut of error is released, so to say, and yet it cannot touch the factuality of the Son of God. So you have those phenomena of the Judas kiss, you see, Judas kissing Jesus, betraying that he is the one to be hung on the cross, he is the one to be crucified. You have Jesus before the high priest, the denial by Peter, the scourging, the mocking, the spitting upon, coming before Pilate, and finally the crucifixion itself. And all through it, he didn't try to defend himself. You see that? That was love. Huh? He knew that for this, what was it he said on the cross? Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which has been mistakenly interpreted as, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Whereas the true interpretation is, my God, for this was I chosen. This is my destiny. So he did nothing to stop it himself. Not trying to defend, not trying to justify himself. He was justified before God. All of error's deception, the betrayal, the denial of truth, the denial of who he was, really, as the Son of God, couldn't touch him, couldn't be touched. He couldn't be touched. All the rottenness of the mortal experience had to culminate there, had to gather there, and be seen, be face to face, become face to face with the Christ idea, because the Christ idea was due for a victory. In the face of error, we're looking at love as truth. in the face of error, the true manhood coming to fulfillment, no error being able to prevent it. As love, what does love say? The attractor in that field, what is the attractor in that field of love as truth? Love fulfills itself in the victory of the Son of God over every error. So it's like the sum total of error was, he came face to face with the sum total of error. The phenomena were what? Darkness, complete darkness. That the veil of the temple was rent. What does that mean? You know that the veil in the temple was that which covered the Holy of Holies. Gita, is this okay? Yeah, that you have the outer court and the holy place and the Holy of Holies, and it was into the Holy of Holies that the high priest would enter once a year, on the Day of Atonement, which, what is the name? Is it Rosh Hashanah? Yom Kippur, being the Day of Atonement, would be the one day that the high priest could go into the Holy of Holies and see God face to face. Here you see that what was happening all around Jesus included this renting of the veil of the temple. Yeah. The destruction, really, of that false sense of being one with God, that he was the high priest. And you know that later in the Bible, in Hebrews, that Jesus is referred to as the high priest. The Christ is referred to as the high priest because it is the Christ idea, the Christ consciousness, that is ever in the Holy of Holies. It is ever face to face with God. Face to face with God. Then there were earthquakes, meaning really that all of the beliefs, you see, all of the beliefs of the earth were being overturned. Everything was being overturned. The rocks were being overturned. The graves were being opened. All was being overturned at the point of love, life, truth, and love, impelling love as truth. All right, are you okay? And then we come to the, what did everything look like in the oneness of being? Because he had been crucified. Now we come to love as love, showing us that in the oneness of being, life is impelling something forth. What is it impelling? This now is the success. It's all success, but this is success that looks like success. We have success that doesn't look like success. The irrepressible impulsion of life proves that the life of man is deathless. So Jesus reappears to his disciples. He's first of all, he is risen. This is typically the life tone, that the impulsion of life is to raise up life, to lift up life, to show the deathlessness of this man, this true man, that nothing can wipe him out. So you get the resurrection of Jesus, and then as truth, the true form of the Son of God is an unchangeable fact. Jesus reappears to his disciples. He's unchanged, untouched, with form. He has the same form, the same identity, therefore he's recognizable. He has his gestalt, his wholeness. I think, as we were talking about last night, a few of us, that he actually still has the scars, right? Why would he still have the scars, huh? To prove that it actually was him, that he actually had gone through that experience, because he could have healed himself of those scars. He came back in order to prove that he had gone through that experience. He came back because it was part of his mission as love, to show us that he was unchanged, untouched, that he would walk with us along the road to Emmaus. We have those other wonderful things going on. Just a moment. That he reappears, and finally, at the point of love, life, truth, and love, impelling love as love, at the point of love, the ultimate attractor now in this field, what is it? It's that the design of love is fulfilled. The purpose of love, the whole intention of love, is fulfilled as the universality of the Son of God. Because as he is on the verge of leaving them, of the verge of his ascension, his complete ascension out of the mortal calculus, the material calculus, he says, all power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. So it's a complete and eternal sense of the highest fulfillment, of a universal fulfillment that changed the calendar, a fulfillment that changed every consciousness, that changed consciousness as a whole, that changed it collectively and individually. It's the highest, most sublime fulfillment that could ever be. And he states that this universality is a universality that implies the ever-presence of the Christ with us, the omnipresent Christ with us.